Which leads, obviously, to you and Stephen A. Hey, legit, that feels like a moment that had been brewing for a long time.
He's like on a Taylor Swift tour run right now.
Oh, yeah.
When one of the greatest players in NBA history locks horns with the loudest voice in sports media, you know it won't stay quiet for long. LeBron James has spent over 2 decades dominating the court, building a legacy no one can deny. But recently, that legacy ran straight into a wall named Stephen A. Smith. It started with whispers about Bronny James, but quickly turned into a full-blown war of words. There were viral memes, courtside confrontations, fact-check fails, and even jabs about Kobe Bryant's memorial. What began as a media critique spiraled into one of the messiest feuds basketball has seen in years. And this wasn't just 2 men going back and forth. No, it was father versus critic, legacy versus opinion, basketball versus broadcast. LeBron clapped back without even raising his voice. Stephen A. refused to back down, no matter how wrong he got it. Other stars, including Charles Barkley, Michael Wilbon, and even the NBA commissioner, were forced to jump in. This drama exposed raw nerves, real emotion, and the power that comes when the court meets the camera. And buried inside this mess, a deeper story about media influence, fatherhood, and what happens when boundaries are crossed. So let's break down the 10 most jaw-dropping moments in this feud and find out why it may be far from over. When LeBron James walked over to Stephen A. Smith courtside at Crypto.com Arena, it wasn't a handshake. It wasn't friendly. It was personal. No cameras caught the audio. No mic picked up the moment. But the body language told the story. LeBron's face was stone cold. Stephen A. looked stunned. Hours later, Smith filled in the blanks himself on his podcast.
Welcome into First Take on this Feel Good Friday. Thank you for being with us. Obviously, Stephen A., an incredible game last night in LA. You were in the building, and we'll get to what that means for the Lakers and Knicks in just a moment. But, S.A., there was a moment in the game that we want to address.
That was LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about making sure that I mind what I say about his son. Can't repeat the words because they ain't suited for FCC airwaves. That's what he was doing.
You're talking too much about my son. You're doing too much. That's what LeBron said. And with that one sentence, the NBA's most powerful figure fired the first shot in a media war. Stephen A. had been criticizing Bronny James for weeks. He said Bronny wasn't ready. He questioned his stats at USC. He asked why someone averaging under 5 points per game was suddenly a top NBA prospect. The message was simple. Bronny didn't earn this. He got here because of his father, and that cut deep.
But you see what you see. Bronny James has played in 13 NBA games. Ladies and gentlemen, he's averaging 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, and 0.4 rebounds. He shot 1 for 16 from the field in his NBA career and 0 for 7 from three-point range. And he's playing in the first quarter of an NBA game? Really? And everybody wants to look at it, and LeBron has nothing to do with that. He didn't tell J.J. Redick to put him in the game. I get all that.
LeBron had never responded to criticism about his own game, not this sharply. But now it wasn't about MVP votes or ring counts. It was about his son. And when Stephen A. turned Bronny into a debate topic, LeBron drew a line in the sand. This wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about blood. Stephen A., of course, didn't back down. He went live on First Take and defended his comments. But his tone changed. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't yelling. He was dead serious. "You're the face of the league," he said, speaking directly to the camera. "You know how this looks. You brought your son into this league. That means he's fair game."
Who got personal? LeBron. He's lying when he says that I attacked his son. When he came up to me courtside at the Lakers-Knicks game, he was lying then. He threw me off guard because he said, "You can't be pooping on my son," because we over FCC Airways. "You can't be doing that." I didn't know what he was talking about, so it threw me off. Had he came up to me and said, what the hell are you doing talking about me as a father? I would say it's because of what you were doing with your son on the basketball court for public consumption. That's fair game.
But it wasn't just that. Smith went a step further, bringing Kobe Bryant into the mix. He questioned LeBron's absence from Kobe's memorial service, saying, "I didn't see LeBron there. That says a lot."
There's a lot that we don't talk about with LeBron James. Remember when the memorial service took place for Kobe Bryant? I'm quite sure he had his reasons. LeBron was devastated, loved Kobe. We get that. I can't believe I didn't see him there. Magic was there, Jordan was there, Shaq was there, Steph Curry was there, D-Wade was there. The NBA community was in attendance. We didn't see LeBron James. Two of the most conspicuous, biggest moments, albeit for completely different, and in Kobe's case, absolutely tragic reasons. We didn't see the face of LeBron James, the face of the league.
It was a low blow and factually wrong. LeBron had attended. He just did it privately without cameras. Fans, reporters, even Kobe's family confirmed it. Within hours, Smith was under fire from all sides. The internet dragged him. Celebrities called him out. And ESPN's own journalists fact-checked him on live TV. Stephen A. was forced into rare territory, an apology. But even that came with a twist. "I misspoke," he said the next day on First Take. "That's on me."
The Olympics. I remember people were blowing up my phone since the first segment of the show when I talked about him at the memorial service, okay? I didn't mean to say he wasn't in the building. I was told he was in the building. You understand? But we saw a whole bunch of players out there. We didn't see him. Why? I'll let him answer that one day, if he so chooses.
But before fans could breathe, he shifted gears again. Where was LeBron when Dwayne Wade got inducted into the Hall of Fame? Nowhere to be found.
I think I was so upset when LeBron James wasn't at Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I still can't believe that wasn't a big enough story. It's supposed to be your brother. Now I understand. Bronny James, just a few months ago, had the heart ailment, collapsed at USC, rushed to the hospital. Thank God he's okay. And I understand LeBron James spending time with family. But from my understanding, he traveled over the summer. And I'm not LeBron James, and I don't get to take private jets that often, but occasionally I do. And I happen to know that you could have had time to fly in for the Hall of Fame induction of your brother. I promise you this, and it's a prognostication, it's a prediction, but I can't say definitively. But I'm almost willing to say, let me promise you that when LeBron James Day comes and he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, I promise you D-Wade will be there. You can bet the house.
He wasn't sorry. He was dodging. He was still swinging.
Just to be a reincarnation of Chris Rock and Will Smith. And let me state for the record that while we bring up that, let me assure you it wouldn't have gone down like that. I would have gotten my ass kicked. Because had that man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. Immediately.
LeBron, meanwhile, kept quiet, at least in interviews. But on Instagram, that's where he landed the knockout blow. LeBron posted a clip of Stephen A. boxing in a gym, flailing arms, awkward footwork, everything.
Clean up that cut move. Raise him up. Yeah, make it more free. Yeah, push.
The post exploded, millions of views in hours. Kevin Durant reposted it. Shannon Sharp called it Hall of Fame level petty. Even SNL mocked it in a skit. LeBron didn't need a press conference. He ended the round with 3 laughing emojis. Still, things were far from over. Enter Charles Barkley. On Inside the NBA, Barkley went off.
He's too big to be that type of bully. The bully is Stephen A. And I've always liked LeBron, but him being a bully, it turned me off, Dan. LeBron, like I say, I blame him for starting the bullying, going on Pat's show just bullying people.
Then he turned his attention to Smith.
I will say that Stephen A., the way he reacted was so lame and weak. And Stephen A. is a good dude, man. For him to react, but the way Stephen A. reacted, going on Gilbert's podcast, talking tough, and I said, come on, man, you're better than that. So there's only There's only losers, Dan, in this scenario, us as the sports media. And Stephen A., I'm not sure what he was trying to do. He just made it worse and worse and worse. And then I saw the thing last night, we had to come out and apologize for saying LeBron didn't go to Kobe's memorial. I'm like, dude, what the hell are you doing?
It was the first time a Hall of Famer blasted both men, and it hit hard. Then came Michael Wilbon, who didn't hold back. On Pardon the Interruption, he said, "I'm tired of this bull's tea. This isn't journalism, this isn't sports, this is ego theater. We've got real games going on, and this is what we're talking about?" Dan Le Batard chimed in next, calling the whole feud two grown men acting like 7-year-olds.
Stephen A. is calling LeBron a liar, which I have not seen him do a lot of. Like, that seems like an escalation. Stephen A. liar on television. I don't think that's something he does all of the time. I think that is very strong as we continue to push the boundaries on these relationships, and as Stephen A. gets rewarded for all the things that he is, and as LeBron goes on McAfee and they create content between all of the shows and try to get integration between all of the shows, you get LeBron saying, yeah, sure, Stephen A. wants to sit this out. He says he didn't want to talk about it. Sure. And then he puts him in tighty-whities eating ice cream, enjoying that LeBron confronted him during a game. But the childishness in it, beyond I would have swung at him and he would have kicked my ass and all the nonsense that men do when they're being silly around the soap opera. The idea that LeBron is mad and that Stephen A. thinks he's mad and keeps coming at him with, "You're not my GOAT. You're not the best. You're the second best. Shannon Sharpe thinks you're the best." It's 7-year-olds. That's how 7-year-olds would do all of this. And it is passing for content I cannot resist.
It's childish, it's dramatic, but it's also addictive. You can't look away. And he was right. Every update went viral. Every segment trended. But behind the scenes, the NBA wasn't laughing. Commissioner Adam Silver broke protocol and addressed the feud directly in a press conference. Debates are a part of sports, but let's remember what we're here for, the game. We want the focus back on basketball.
Stephen A. Smith, who's at one of your biggest media partners in ESPN, and LeBron James, who's one of your most popular players, and the conversation is no longer about the sport of basketball. I wonder what your thoughts on that and just the overall state of the basketball discourse is.
I'll begin by saying I just ended board meetings that began at 8 a.m. this morning. I will say my phone was in front of me and I received several texts that said, "Are you watching this?" And I said, "What's this?" And they said, "Stephen A." So I understand. I saw some of the headlines that came out of it. We're a particular sport in which that kind of debate seems to be part of the DNA of this league. And I'm jealous sometimes. It seems that in other sports that I'm a fan of, and when I watch the coverage, particularly around the games, it seems to be more celebratory often than it is in the NBA. Again, I haven't had an opportunity to watch or read precisely what went on today, but of course would like the focus to be on the play on the floor. And I particularly feel protective of our players, of course, but I recognize that there's a cottage industry out there of media that we are often the beneficiary of, that talk about our sport around the clock, but I sure wish it would never become personal.
That was a warning shot, a subtle message that the league was watching. But what came next was pure chaos. In a late-night radio segment, Stephen A. made the mistake of dragging Caitlin Clark into the conversation. He said, "If you think Bronny's rise is all about LeBron's name, you better be asking questions about Caitlin Clark too. That media machine is just as powerful." Boom. Explosion. The backlash was instant. ESPN hosts started distancing themselves. Former WNBA players came to Clark's defense. Fans were furious. Chinese Agua Mike tweeted, "You do not come for Caitlin like that, period." Breanna Stewart posted a photo of Clark hitting a deep three with the caption, "Media hype doesn't break records, skill does." Even Stephen A.'s own ESPN co-host Molly Karam awkwardly shifted in her seat the next morning on First Take and said, Let's just not drag Caitlyn into this mess. She's earned her spotlight. But the internet had already turned. Now it wasn't just about LeBron, it was about a pattern. Was Stephen A. out of touch? Was he attacking young stars to stay relevant? And why was he suddenly going after two of the most marketable names in basketball? One Twitter user summed it up perfectly. LeBron James protects his son. Stephen A. attacks everyone else's. It stuck. Stephen A. tried to clarify days later, saying he meant media narratives, not the players. But the damage was done. He had alienated NBA fans, WNBA fans, and even his own colleagues. And still, no apology. This wasn't just a feud anymore. It was a media meltdown. A generational icon versus a media juggernaut, both too proud to back down. Both backed into a corner with millions watching. And the scariest part? Neither of them is done yet. So what started as a courtside exchange has now turned into something much bigger. This isn't just a story about a player and a commentator. It's about the shifting power dynamics of sports media. It's about fathers defending their children in the public eye. It's about how far people will go to protect their name and how far others will go to stay relevant. LeBron James may have drawn the first boundary, but Stephen A. Smith, he crossed every single one. We've seen apologies that weren't really apologies. We've seen viral jabs, personal insults, and even innocent stars like Caitlin Clark dragged into the storm. At this point, the feud isn't just personal, it's generational. And maybe that's the real story here. You've got one of the most celebrated athletes of all time, a symbol of control and legacy, going toe-to-toe with a media powerhouse who thrives on chaos. They're opposites in every way, yet locked in a battle neither one of them can walk away from without looking weak. The NBA may want this drama to die down. ESPN may hope for calmer headlines, but the audience, they're glued to every moment, every clip, every post, because deep down we know something bigger is coming. Stephen A. hasn't said his last word, LeBron hasn't made his final move, and the next chapter, it might be even louder than the last. So the only real question left is, who's going to blink first?